short chair.
Aha! He made it. He made it. He sat down right as the bell rang.
Yes, I did.
Very good. And if you didn't know, Carlisle Johnson, I'm Elise Giammarco Carlson. This is Panoramic Perspectives, because we give our perspective on anything, whether or not people want to hear it. But they probably do, because that's why they're here.
I would think so. Thank you for tuning in. Yes.
Although tonight they may be here to see our guest, not us.
I think that, I think he's a draw. I really do. Yeah, we've got a little intro for him, too, actually. It's pretty comprehensive.
Yes, you wrote it. Would you like to read it?
Okay. Let me get the better kind of glasses that's going to work for us.
So while Carl is getting his glasses, I'll just tell you that we had a really good time this weekend at Paracon, which we always have to say like that because it's got the two N's at the end from being in Connecticut. In Sonia, Connecticut, I actually drove 2 hours away. I am such a Rhode Islander. We stopped to eat.
Yeah, we had to, I thought.
A 2-hour drive. Okay, so you, if you can see that, can read it.
Pretty much I can, yes. Okay, well, actually, I wish you had bigger type because my eyes, like they've taken a nosedive, but I'll manage. I'll be the TV reporter. Okay. TV personality, researcher, curator, lecturer, author. He is a featured analyst for the Travel Channel. The Travel Channel's Paranormal Caught on Camera and Doomsday Caught on Camera. I like those. Yeah. A previous guest on History Channel's The Curse of Oak Island. Now I'm going to ask him about that. Yeah. And The UnXplained, and well-known as tech specialist for SyFy Channel's The Haunted Collector team. Yes. When not delighting fans with his on-screen presence, the 20-year paranormal research veteran continued. Yeah, this is difficult. Wait, I know what I'm going to do.
We're
so casual here.
Oh my goodness! What do you have up your sleeve now?
Yeah, I just write the stuff. I don't memorize it. Okay. All right. Okay. This should go good. Yeah. When not delighting fans with his on-screen presence, the 20-year paranormal research veteran continues to expand his vision while striving to both educate and entertain. That's accurate. Brian's interactive History of the Paranormal exhibit, introduced in 2018, was taken mobile in 2020 with successful showings I don't have 2020, obviously. Yeah. With successful showings in 11 states thus far. The ultimate goal, all 50 states. Additionally, Brian has completed his long-awaited first book, In Grains of Sand, Tales of a Paranormal Life. He shares his personal evolution through the lens of paranormal investigation. Brian delivers a message of hope that transcends this increasingly tumultuous world. And that it is. So we welcome Mr. Brian J. Cano. And here he is.
Hi, Brian.
Hello.
Oh, I left out, and probably the handsomest personality and male personality in paranormal research today. And I'm not even kidding about that. I mean it. Yeah.
After you just established that you need a stronger prescription, you say something like that, and I'm like, thank you, but
well, you can't see, so.
Oh, he ain't all that. Come on, come on, yeah. Nah, he is.
You got a nice outline.
Yeah, these are my distance. I can see into other worlds with this. Yeah. There
you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do.
Well, I wouldn't be able to see a thing without these. So.
Yeah. So what do you? He's like me.
3D. Funny. He's gonna come right through the TV with those glasses on.
So what should we do with the lighting? Are we good enough?
I think we could leave it.
Yeah, I think we could leave it. Right? Brian looks good. Yeah.
So yeah, it was so nice to run into you this weekend at Paracon.
Yeah.
It was so short. I felt we got there, we set up. It was a fun day, a great day. We were packing up to go home, and that sad Sunday feeling when we're all leaving, and it's like the Muppets Take Manhattan when they're all leaving and going their separate ways. It's like, oh, yes. All right, I'll see you guys. See you soon. Oh, and it's a little somber drive, but it was a good weekend.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah. I noticed that, Brian, because we're at a distance, and whenever we part company, there is a somber tone to it. It's like we kind of have that look to each other, and Elise, and it's like, this is going to be a while now. I hope to see you later in the year. Is basically it. Yeah. I think, Brian, you and I did most of our talking when I was on stage. I was like, saying,
it's funny because I was talking to someone at my table, and I always tried to have attention, a little bit of focus everywhere, and I kept hearing, Brian Cano. I'm like, oh, hey, okay. Thing, okay, haunted object, Brian Cano. I'm like, oh, hey.
No, you were. I did. You did that on cue every time. You know, hey, he is here. He really is. We're not making it up. Yeah. And boy, do I have a couple of invitations for you, but I'll probably save them, until they are definite.
Okay.
Well, now I know pretty much how you started in paranormal research and all that. And at first, you were kind of like diffident to it. It was just not your thing. I don't know if you were like dubious about it or you just didn't care, but events pulled you to it. And now you're an author. Now you've written a book about your life and paranormal experience. Oh, geez, where do we start? Before we get into your book, can you tell us a little bit more, reiterate for our audience how you began your career? And it is a career in paranormal research.
Indeed, it is. And this last place I thought I would be when things first started back in 2002. I mean, I was always interested in the paranormal. I always found it to be a fascinating subject. What kid doesn't look up into the stars and imagine what's out there, or looks to our very planet and wonders about the mysteries, the stories, the urban legends of our world, and imagine and dream? And I was one of those kids. And to the point where I was raised Catholic, so I have the Catholic guilt. I'm a recovering Catholic now. I don't go to church, but
Oh yeah,
I,
let me guess.
I do believe.
I don't want to feel too
Now,
guilty.
that being said, when I was a child, I believed in so much. I believed in everything that I was one of the kids who was too afraid to do the Bloody Mary challenge in the mirror, just in case, because I didn't even then I knew I didn't need that in my life. But coming up around college, mid to late 20s, I found myself in a very skeptical place. I didn't believe in anything. Crisis of faith. God is dead. Yeah, there's nothing. Oh, you saw a ghost? Sure, you did. You're nuts, and you're crazy, and you're just weird. I don't know about you. So I came into the paranormal as a card carrying skeptic. And it's not that I didn't want to believe, I just felt that the reports were so unsubstantiated that they weren't adding enough to their cause. And for me, people will always ask, well, what changed you from a skeptic to a believer? And it wasn't one instance, it wasn't one investigation or one occurrence. It was a lot of little ones. All the experiences in the paranormal. I read, researched, got mentored, went on cases, formed a group, filmed documentaries, and all the while I'm looking to be convinced. And each one of those experiences was akin to a grain of sand that I would look at, examine, decide, this is rather small, this isn't convincing, and I would drop it at my feet. And over time, all these grains of sand accumulated at my feet, and one day I looked down and, metaphorically speaking, I'm standing on a beach. And I had to consider what that meant. And that's why the book is called Grains of Sand, Tales of a Paranormal Life, available now on Amazon.com and your favorite bookseller. Because again, all those grains of sand, each tale in there, were things that the paranormal taught me that at the time I wasn't ready to accept, I couldn't recognize, but upon reflection, I go, oh, that's what that's about. Oh,
Yeah.
that's the lesson. Okay, message received.
And that's true. I'm echoing. That's true about the paranormal projection. We're seeing things, and then it comes back, and you say something similar happens. You're like, oh, that's what that was about. And I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got a little echo. Occasionally we have the tech difficulties and we don't know when they're going to come up. But fortunately, you'll be doing most of the talking, Brian, anyway. But strange things are really happening. My phone turned on. I shut off. It just turned itself on, and it hasn't ever done that. I mean, sometimes Sirius will come through or something, and Alexa will come through when I don't even have that app. But that's bizarre for my phone to just come on like that. So we'll continue with bizarre then. Yes. What do you? I won't say fear, but you actually have a reputation for being kind of a darer. Somebody who will tread where others won't, and you don't mind taking a few chances here and there as long as it's not nutty. Like you and Oak Island, yeah, walking around there. What would you avoid? If there is something in particular you'd avoid? I don't know if we want to say something extreme like wicked spirits, or a house that's really foreboding, or somebody and you encounter someone with a lot of negativity in their life and you can just, it's palpable, you can feel it. Is there something that you would steer clear from or advise others to?
Well, when it comes to fear, and I think I'm hearing an echo of myself. Yes, I am.
Well, that's not possible. So we cleared that out. So yeah.
Echo. Okay, I don't hear it anymore. Okay, it's gone. When it comes to fear, we have that response, the fight or flight. Most people run. Most people prepare for a fight. I do neither. I freeze. So when something scary happens and something presents itself, I freeze up because my brain is thinking, okay, what's the next course of action? What am I getting into? What's presenting itself? What do I do next? Because if I run, okay, I'm not going to get any more information from this. There's going to be no learning from it. There's going to be no resolution. If I fight, that's aggression, and I'm just going to get it right back. So the producers hated that when it came to Haunted Collector. They're like, Brian, did you hear that noise? Yeah, I did. I'm deciding what to do. So when it comes to what would I avoid, what do I steer clear of? I try to steer clear of things that are blatantly not good as far as situation goes. When there's people who need help, when there is a curiosity that I can look into, okay, yeah, I'm available. I'm on the case. But there's some things that you don't need to do. And I find that a lot of investigators, and I say investigators, not necessarily researchers, but investigators and tourists will do. Whoever's your producer is hitting a lot of buttons. They should stop.
It's our resident techie ghost.
All right, Ghost, focus up. Camera one right here.
But the last image reminded me of something else I wanted to ask you. So please continue your thought because it's very interesting.
Okay. When it comes to dark things like certain practices and provoking and pretty much kicking the hornet's nest, there's nothing that we can do. There's nothing that we can armor ourselves with that can completely protect you from these invisible forces. And if we're going to engage with them, if we're going to get involved, it's like they say, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And if you're going to, every now and then you will get burns. I'm doing my best to not get burned. So I'm taking precautions and I'm staying away when I see the situation is bad. Like, let's just say, for the sake of argument, there is a location that might have something demonic or incredibly actually, even better. I did a lot of research on Skinwalker Ranch, and I'm like, oh, I want to go there. I cannot wait. It's exciting my imagination. There's so much involved with it. There's so many reports, and there's two books that I read. The Hunt for Skinwalker Ranch, and then a second one that had the government transcripts and the records of everything that they did there, including the lists of people and families and things that went wrong to people who went there. And I'm wondering, well, maybe if this isn't spiritual, maybe if this isn't a skinwalker per se, but all the UFO activity, maybe there's some radiation. A lot of people have gotten sick. I don't need to get sick. I don't want to get sick. So you know what? I changed my plans. I said, okay, let me push back. I'm going to appreciate it from afar instead of just running in, flexing, going, "Oh, I'm here! Come on, fam! Smash that like button, subscribe." No, I'm going to freeze, consider my options. The more
Yeah.
information I have, the better, the more logical and sound decision I can make. And as of right now, that decision is to not go.
I think that's fantastic. It shows your thinking. So many people just want to, run in and say they're doing something. I mean, even on a smaller scale, got a report of something happening to grandma in her house every afternoon when she sits down. Great. Let's throw grandma out, move the whole team in at 3 o'clock in the morning and sleep over. Wait, what? It had nothing to do with this. But yeah, yours is on a grander scale than that. But that's exactly the way we think too. Stop, think about what you're looking for.
I mean, curiosity really did kill the cat. I mean, if you're in the ocean and you're on a boat, and you're like, "Oh, look what's down there." If you jump in, okay, you are now in there with everything that wants to eat you in the ocean. If you're up in space and you go out of the airlock without a spacesuit, guess what's going to happen? You could be curious. You could want to know all the answers in the world, and your faith. You are a man of faith and strong. And no oxygen.
Yeah.
Whose fault is that?
Right.
Sometimes our desire for those answers makes us ignore basic survival instinct. And I think it's not about being brave or being cowardly. It's about being logical and rational. And sometimes we have to take a step back and say, well, what's best? What's best in this situation?
Right.
Now you achieve balance. Yeah. Well, curiosity didn't kill Erwin Schrodinger's cat, did it? Only opening the box.
It did. And he survived. And it killed him. And he survived. And it killed him. Both at the same time.
Yeah. Now, talking about like unorthodox interests and taking chances. You at one time went on a werewolf hunt, a cryptid, not maybe werewolf, but something like Dogman, or you were looking for something strange out in a swampy area. What was that all about?
Oh, that was we. There's no you. This was we. I seem to remember a particular Johnson wearing a hat and a duster alongside with me, looking like Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when something that odd is reported in contemporary times, you usually hear about vampires and werewolves, you think Europe, Dark Ages, right. Not Connecticut or Rhode Island 2020s. Ooh, this is weird. What is happening? And for a logical person to say, well, I don't know, guys, I think I saw a werewolf. All right, well, this is the thing. We have to, as investigators, at least look into it. Let's go talk to the girl. This is all part of qualitative research. There's quantitative in the lab, qualitative in the field. And we can't just judge sitting here behind our computers. We've got to go. And you and I, we surveyed the scene. We checked the woods. We talked to the witnesses. We got as much information as we could. And even though it didn't lead to an encounter with either a werewolf or Abbott and Costello, we did have a time where, we learned better to work together and with the local team that came with us. And again, this is I learned more from you in that time because, again, you've done a lot more than I have and have pounded this pavement for decades. So I'm still learning. So this was a good chance for me to shadow you and see how you handle things. And together we were able to not only have a good time, but I think show the people that we were with, all right, you don't have to be afraid.
Right.
Don't panic. And if you still see this, if you're still encountering these problems, all right, well, here's something that you can do about it. It's part of our world. It's part of nature. There's nothing that's broken or wrong. But when things do go wrong and things get strange and you don't know what to do about it, who are you going to call?
Mm-hmm.
Carl and Brian.
Brian, yes, I would like to think so. I'd like. We could, yeah. Call Colin. I didn't want to say it first, but I'm glad at least did. But the night, certainly that day and night was not wasted. We had wonderful camaraderie. Yeah, everything was. It's not my phone, and we did have an account. We were out in a very murky, swampy area, really, and it was ripe for that kind of thing we were doing. We did not find the dog person or werewolf that night, but there were some very intriguing photographs, evidence, and it just evidence got scattered, got lost, and misplaced, and photograph became
Not from that night.
No,
before that night.
Yeah, no, yeah, not during our night, our time there. However, there was something I was seeing that I did not at all expect, was not looking for. So I wanted to ask Brian first what he was experiencing, because we separated for about half an hour, and then we recombined. And I asked you, I wanted to know if you were seeing what I saw. And you were, you described exactly. You said you were seeing multiple shadow persons, which are generally, if people see a shadow person, usually one at a time. I never saw like 4 or 5 together until that night. They seemed in motion. And I said, look, all right, is this the tree? Is this light coming through the tree? What could this be? No, I'm seeing figures out here, and I'm looking at them. I'm observing them carefully. And you said you saw shadowy figures out there as well. You remember seeing those things?
I remember vividly the neighborhood, the parking lot, how it was butted up against the trees, and it had a section of woods. I do remember as we spread out and fanned along the edges, I got that sense that we were being watched, not from other people, and there were some people from neighboring houses looking around like, what's going on? What are these guys doing? Not from that, although we were getting that as well. I was just going over with an apprentice of mine about this, about PK and how it applies to psychic healing and psychic photography, how that feeling of being watched is a direct connection. And that night, I was feeling that in spades. So seeing those shadow forms was almost verification for me that, all right, we're being checked out. And the intent of us going out there to try to make said contacts, I don't feel that I personally made any, but we were, metaphorically speaking, no pun intended, we were in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I think we were being observed as much as we were observing.
We had all that water right there also. We were right on the
river. Look at the factors there. I mean, I tried.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Somebody caught mist on the picture, but it was kind of indefinite. It looked like just a
It was
photograph.
A hazy night. There were people smoking, and I kind of discounted that one. It was a really cool picture, but I mean, who's to say somebody hadn't been smoking there 1 minute before and it was still hanging in the air?
Yeah, it would there. If there was no breeze, it would just hang there for a while. So your exhibit that you travel around, you really want to do all 50 states, and I'm glad you did Rhode Island. You did Lincoln, Rhode Island.
I do. I want to get, well, first of all, I want to get to all 50 states. I still have a number outstanding, but to get the exhibit to all 50 states, I've been to 11 so far. There's 2 more slated for this year, West Virginia and Kansas. North Carolina is slated for next year. I'm trying to do at least 4 a year, which means before I die, I will eventually get to them all. But it's one of those goals. We have 50 states. Yeah, let me get to all of them. And it's funny because no matter where I post that I'm going, I could say, I'm coming to New York. When you coming to Oshkosh? Okay. And now I'm coming to West Virginia. When you coming to Sandusky? Like, no matter, unless I'm showing the exhibit in your living room, I will never satisfy everyone. So here's where I'm showing. I did all the hard work. Just come the rest of the way. I'm asking, and especially when I come to a state and someone's like, oh, you're an hour and a half away. I'm like, oh, well, I'm 10 hours away from you. Calm down.
Yeah. Well, I know of a beautiful venue in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, if you're ever headed out that way.
Yes, I am.
It's a very nice museum there that I could just picture your exhibit set up in.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'll have to send you some information on that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I'm a child of the 70s and the 80s. It was the collect them all generation. You have one, you got to give them all. So I did my exhibit in a few local states. And I'm like, now I have to go to them all.
Pokemon, wacky packages. Oh, we always had to
Yeah.
collect everything.
Although it used to be collect them all, trade with your friends. I tried to get my friends involved. So, like, Carl, you were a guest at my Rhode Island showing at the
Yeah.
Hearthside House Museum, which was probably one of my favorite showings. When I go to a local place, I tried to have a local investigator, someone who supplements what I'm showing. And because it's educational, oh my God, I said the E word, it's educational. Oh no! We
That
try
takes
to have
all
fun
out
with
of
it.
it right there, huh?
Try to
That's
keep
what
it entertaining so that the people are learning, but they don't realize they're learning.
Yes.
And when they leave, oh my, oh, you came away with some more knowledge than you had before. Cool.
Need to do that one. Clicked the wrong one. That was my
Yeah, you're
error.
traveling around different places. Yeah,
Um,
that's a little out of focus, but you
Yeah,
can see
I've
where we
been,
are.
you know, I told you I've been taking some. It just keeps going to another picture when I get that one off.
We want to keep that
Um,
one with Brian. Yeah.
I mean, I've been taking classes with Lloyd Auerbach, and it was so nice to see you take a lot of that information that, you know, some of us learn and go in depth into and bring it to people who just say, hey, he's a ghost guy. Let's go to Lincoln. Let's go to Hotside. That looks like fun. And then you're giving them a little bit of the history about and how they came up with some of the theories that people have come up with, and, you know, putting it all together in an entertaining way. Everybody had a great time that night, and they went out learning something without even knowing it, I think.
There's a chasm. There's a divide between the academics
Yes.
and the ghost hunters, the hobbyists.
Yeah.
They're not seeing eye to eye. Now, there's value in both sides.
Yes.
When I teach parapsychology to my apprentices, I say, look, there's terms you need to know. There's names and abbreviations, and the academics can admittedly be a little sterile, kind of boring. But I want you to know it so that you could speak in their language, so they can't look askew, they can't look askance and look down and say, "Oh, you guys are you're wasting your time and you don't know what we know." Well, we do. We know what you know. Why don't you come into the field with us? Why don't you see our side of things, and we can meet somewhere in the middle? And this, I've been furthering my education at the Rhine. I've been taking courses as I'm passing this on and teaching others. And I said, look, I want to be that bridge. I want to come off the mountain with the tablets and say, here's your paranormal 10 commandments. And let's get communicating, because they have plenty of conferences where you look at the list and I guarantee you don't know anybody there. But then they look at our conferences and they're like, oh, TV people. Oh, then we're not talking. We're not gaining the benefits of all this shared knowledge. And I feel that's a disservice to both sides.
Yes. And then sometimes, you know, when you do go out in the field and you're talking to people and you start to bring some of those terms up, and I mean, you know, the first thing you learn when you're studying this stuff, when you start getting, you know, a little bit better at it, is as soon as you see something or hear something or whatever, you start asking it. All it does is lead to 5 more questions. Okay, there is a voice that seems to come up in that recorder. Why is there a voice in the recorder? We're not going to assume it's on, you know, Aunt Tilly haunting the house. Is it psychokinesis? Does it have, you know, what's the meaning behind what it said? What does it sound like? It just brings up more questions.
Well, before we get to that, I'm going to quiz you, Elise, and let's see if Lloyd was a good teacher. Okay, as a parapsychologist, someone comes to you with a report. What's the first concern? As a parapsychologist, the first concern is,
what is it?
Is it authentic? Is it authentic?
Oh my God.
Now, if we determine, yes, it's authentic, all right, we continue to the next. What's the second concern? How does it work? We've determined it's authentic. Now, how does it work? All right, is it a function of psi? Is it ESP? Is it psychokinesis? Now, the academic parapsychologist doesn't want to hear spirit. They don't want to hear ghost, Bigfoot, UFO, but we do. So, you know, again, if they are looking to segment and say, no, that's a waste of time, then they're almost wasting their time by not including it all. And I remember back when I first started,
I
remember going up to the Stanley Hotel.
And say it doesn't concern physics, so I don't want to know.
Right.
I remember going up to the Shanley Hotel. This was probably 2006, 2007. And I was just, and still skeptical, I was just a ghost and spirits guy. And the caretaker says, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here. Here, let me tell you everything." And for 45 minutes straight, without taking a breath, she told us about every room and every spirit and every possible thing that was going on in that place. And then she took a breath and she goes, "Ah, you know what? I'm so glad you guys are here because you know what? Last week down the road, they had a UFO convention. Those guys are weird." I said, "Lady, you just spent the past 45 minutes telling us about all the dead people in your place and how the spirits are in." And
Right.
that's the thing.
Weird.
If you're going to say, "All right, I believe in spirits," you have to leave the door at least a little bit open for cryptids, for UFOs, for multidimensional, for other explanations, because you're going to be it's going to be tunnel vision. You're going to be missing so much more of the picture without allowing, and it could all be the same thing. Bigfoot could be an ET.
Right, because we
Bigfoot could
know
be multidimensional.
Right.
The demons that we're talking about could be extraterrestrials. Jinns could be demons, et cetera, et cetera. We could all be talking about the exact same thing. Shadow figures, multiple dimensions, Einstein Rosen bridges. We could be talking to ourselves. We could be talking to descendants. We could be talking to ancestors. There's so much that we think we have a handle on,
Right.
but we can only define and give terminology by our current understanding.
Right.
We can't imagine what we can't conceive of. So,
Exactly.
as human beings, we are incredibly limited. And there's our picture again.
Yeah, well, we glimpsed it for a moment. It's like seeing a ghost, you know.
Those are
If
the
we can
lovely
use
ladies
such
in front.
you know, see it for a couple of seconds, if that much, and memorize it, and you analyze it afterwards. And that's what we're doing with that picture that keeps flashing out of you.
When I think of how much I don't know, I'm like, oh, it's so much. It's so
You said
much.
a list of papers that people have written, and I'm like, wow. And that's the stuff they do know. And imagine how much we don't know.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or the theories they've come up with anyway. But I mean, some of those papers are just amazing to read.
We always seem on the quest for a unified field theory, something that's going to tie it all together. You know, what is the essence of paranormal? This is the substance of paranormal, and they all proceed along
One,
this line. We haven't found it yet.
one big alien's going to come down and explain everything someday. That
Oh,
would be
I'd have
nice.
so many
That would
questions
be
if
nice.
it came to me, these ultra industrials, and if they just, um, I would say, look, you can tell me anything. I'm a demonologist. Then suddenly I've had my revelation. I've spoken to an alien person. You know, nobody's going to care about that. So tell me, just me. Yeah, maybe I'll leave a note. I don't know. But how would you define a ghost, Brian? I mean, if somebody, I still am not quite sure, other than like maybe a 10-minute explanation of my ideas. But if somebody asks,
I
what's a ghost?
I whittle ghost down semantically to essentially refer to the residual. A ghost in my nomenclature is you can't really communicate with it. You're not going to get any uh, meaningful communication because again, it is just an echo. Spirit, intelligent. Ghost, residual. That's how I've been operating because we have to make some terminologies mean something because if you look just at the word ghost, spirit, spook, specter, shade, there's so many words to describe that phenomena of something that has survived death, something that may never have been incarnate in flesh.
Right.
How do we define it until we start using the same words? We're all going to be tripping over little misunderstandings. So for me,
Right.
ghost is residual. And then here's the thing I feel we could be creating our own ghosts. I feel that a lot of the things you see out of the corner of your eye, and maybe in some cases, some of the shadow people might be cast off residual energy from yourself. Who
Oh,
says that you have to die in order to leave something residual? If residual is just leftover energy, well, we're outputting energy all the time. We're outputting energy in the form of heat, um, light energy. There's lots of different waves. Our emotional energy that which pervades a room. If we were to have a big blowout argument, you would come into the room. Next person would come in. They would feel that like, oh, Oh, it's a little awkward. What happened in here? Conversely, we're having a great time, we're jovial, we're joking, and everything's great. The person who comes in will feel that raised energy and go, what's going on in here? Oh, I want to be a part of this.
Right.
And
Without seeing anybody's face, without anything.
we are creatures of habit. We have our routines, and I feel we are day by day making a groove in reality that we're depositing energy. And maybe you're washing dishes, maybe you're folding laundry, and out of the corner of your eye, you see something move in your hallway, and you're like, you'll never be able to communicate with it. You won't be
Right.
able to get an EVP because maybe that's you. Maybe that's the echo of you just doing your chores, just living, just being. And from a spirit perspective, I really do believe that where we are, they are. So they're all around us. In addition to us laying down cast off energy, there's a lot that we have to discern. We have to categorize. So it's important to get semantics and nomenclature spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there are so many things other explorers, other academics even doing in other countries in languages we don't even understand. So even we don't even know a lot of what other people are doing in other countries on top of
Esma.
the old, yogic traditions and, old other religions, believing in reincarnation. There's, a whole nother thing to survival of consciousness. And, is it a person's consciousness that's passed on? There's just so much around the world to learn that it's hard to put that all together.
Well, not to mention, if you take into account now, this is going to be like a 40 car pileup. There's lots of competing things that all may be in some part, in some portion, correct. You have your reincarnation theory. All right. As I get older and the more I do this, I feel, all right, that makes sense. I can get behind reincarnation. Um, First law of thermodynamics, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. We like to lean on that as a lazy proof of the paranormal. But okay, if we do get recycled, if we continue to incarnate into different versions, well, why can't we talk to cavemen ghosts? Because they've already incarnated into other forms, into
Right.
other bodies. But
Right.
this also implies a finite number. This implies a finite universe of personalities that we keep recycling. We keep like the mint isn't keep. It's like money. They keep printing more money. It devalues the whole. So all right, if I've lived say 10 lives, can I communicate with one of those past lives?
Right.
Maybe. Now this brings into account the conception of time. We as human beings see time as a linear thing, but that's only how we can understand it. That's how we can not
Right.
go insane.
Increment, step by step, going along that line. Yeah.
If time is a jumbled of like, okay, we see time is are simultaneously happening and going on. Maybe almost like in the movie The Others with Nicole Kidman, when
Yes.
we're talking to spirit, we're just talking to someone living their life in that moment in time that somehow the walls, the brains of reality have weakened or touching in just that right way for us to perceive that. Which also means then, okay, perhaps we can talk to past or future versions of
Right.
ourselves.
They're not really past
Yeah.
our future. They're just,
Yeah.
it just is.
And you
How else
use
would you say it? That's the thing. We don't even have a way to say that.
the word brains as BRANES, like membranes.
Correct.
And it's reminiscent of some things, some progress is being, some discoveries that are being made with the Hadron Particle Accelerator and Collider.
Mm.
And actually, it's near Geneva, and it's Switzerland and France. It goes underneath the ground, and it's 17 miles long. So, and the things they're doing, they have a particle. It's a boson, so it's called the Higgs boson after the developer, the one who's researching it, or started the research. It goes in and out of existence. It annihilates and then it comes back, and it affects itself in the future. It just it does all kinds of bizarre things. And I like hearing about advances that are made with particle research as much as I like hearing about what happened at your seance. You know, did you get anything? You know, because they're both valuable. And I tend to fall into a neologism, like making my own words sometimes. Sometimes they've caught on. Sometimes they're just like,
Word for this.
I don't know which one. Yeah, frustrating. You know, but you know, conglomerate. I don't know. Yeah, I'll think of a name for this. You know, but I mean, we need more terminology in the paranormal, and but we work with what we have for now. I mean, I'm a demonologist. I don't always like saying demon, you know, because right away people have a preconception. You know?
The sound's going again.
Yeah, the sound's going again. Yeah. Well, we should probably call it an early night. I don't want to. I want to keep talking with you. You know, we've got something we need to be. We're doing something of an investigation tonight. Actually, it really is an investigation of
Well, because of the technical
the
difficulties.
technical difficulty. Yeah, we don't want to push the envelope too much. Yeah. So what's next for you, Brian? I mean, I have ideas, but
Tomorrow morning, I'll be hopping on a plane to head to Ohio State Reformatory and Parapsychon 4. It's going to be a great time. I've got lots of appearances. Actually, next month, I'm going to be coming out to your neck of the woods. Actually, past, going to be in Quincy, Massachusetts, aboard the USS Salem with Dustin Perry for the final performance of Pathways. And that's going to be taking place aboard the USS Salem.
And there's a picture of Brian on the Salem.
Yeah, that's I believe that's from the Salem line.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that guy. I know him.
Showing pictures. I'm sorry because I clicked on
It's going to go through a lot of pictures, yeah.
So
including some that are not my favorite. That one I like because we had a good time that day.
It was a good time. That was at Leffingwell.
Yes. That was a nice house.
From start to finish. That's when, of course, we were still wearing the masks. You know, they were
right.
It's good to have the opportunity to visit there. In addition,
we celebrated because I never, we didn't know collectively. We didn't know if we'd ever get away from wearing the masks, or if we'd be more isolated. Things come and go. You know. Well, we'd certainly love to have you back on and finish our conversation or start a whole new one. You know, because that's the thing about paranormal. It's speculative. We go from one topic to the other, and that's just the way it has to be because there's so much to talk about. Yeah. You even mentioned Einstein and Rosenberg and all those neat names. Well, thank you so much, Brian J. Cano, and we'll be merciful on you, let you go a little bit early.
Okay.
If you could just stay on for 1 second after we thing for you.
But
thank you so much for coming, and I'm sorry about
Thanks for having me, guys. It's always